Hi, welcome back to the breadboard. As you can see in the view here, it's time to prepare the linear rails for installation onto a 3D printer Voron 2.4 build. So what I have here is all of the rails. There are four that are 500 millimeters long and two shorter ones for the Y rails and one MGN 12 for the X carriage. That's the only one that's an MGN 12. So when you get these from the manufacturers, they are often covered in grease. You can see there's grease, you're probably just seeing it. It's like a greasy, oily surface across the whole rail. And they're going to be inside the bearing housing and things too. That's there usually when the rails are shipped to you to prevent rusting and everything else in transit, but it's not meant to be the final lubricant for when you start using the linear rails. What we're going to do is clean all of this off and re-oil them. Now I've got two oils to choose from. I've got a silicone spray lubricant. This is fairly lightweight, easy to apply. You may just put some in a container and then use a little brush or something for some parts, but anyway, the other one I have is a white lithium. And what I've also got is a whole bunch of 99% isopropyl alcohol to dissolve everything. And this tray here is magnetic. It's got three magnetic parts in it. The reason I'm using these is because when we start taking these things apart, you do have a serious risk of losing ball bearings if you're not careful. Now, all the rails, when I bought them, they came with this bunch of spare bearings. They also came with some little plastic adapters that would allow you to slide the rail off, but still keep the rail onto an equivalent of a rail. These have a looser fit, so it's not so hard. You're less likely to get the ball bearings springing than when you bring the rails straight off of the slider here. Now I'm going to zoom back a little bit. I'm going to show you, I've cleaned one, but I haven't oiled it yet. This one I cleaned, and you can see it's already starting to slide a bit. I don't know if that's the best one to, right? If I take this one, which I haven't touched yet, and do the same thing, see, it won't even, right? It's very gummy. So they definitely need cleaning. And the easiest thing to do is to take the carriages off the rails, give these a thorough wipe down with a cloth or paper tissue, whatever, with isopropyl alcohol. Clean them off, let them dry, and then probably give them a light spray with lithium or silicone to protect them. The same for all the rest of them. These are the lens stops come on them, by the way, to prevent them from losing the carriage off the end in transit. So in case you need replacement bearings, in case you lose some, point of note, the MGN 12s use a nominal 2.38 or just under. You have to look it up for your particular brand, but basically 2.38 millimeter balls. So mine came with a pack of a few extra. It looks like maybe a couple of dozen there. The MGN 9 rails also came with spares, and these use 2 millimeters. I measured them all with a micrometer, and they all came out at 2 millimeters as well. So I'm going to put all these in the same bag, save me having to keep all these separate ones. They also come with either this kind of little guide, which is not terribly good, but let me see if I can get a better view. Little guide that you can use for sliding the lock onto. Right, that's that one. The bigger ones, which seem more like the shape of the rail, are these ones. You can also get, that's for the MGN 12. These are ones for the MGN 9s. You can also get STL files and print your own if you have a working 3D printer. But you'll probably find that when you order them, you'll get them in the mail with the rails anyway, which makes life a lot easier. So we will cover using them while we go through this. Okay, if you look at the side of the rail, you'll see there's a little notch. That's what the ball bearings run in. If you look at the little adapter, call it a staging piece, whatever you like, its profile is the same. Once you've verified you've got your profile the same way on each one, just lay it down on a flat surface and you can slide the block, hold on to that. You can just slide it straight off onto the carrier. Now, if you're not going to take them off and you're just going to clean them like this, you can see inside there the bearings just right on either side. You could spray some isopropyl in there or just sit it like this in a container with some isopropyl alcohol. What I want to do is give them a more thorough clean. So I'm going to take the end caps off and release all the bearings on at least one of these to show you. Now, these have a looser fit than the main rails. There's a reason for that. It makes it so that you can take these off if you want to without sending the ball bearings everywhere. Okay, and if you're very careful, now if we just gently slide this, you can see there's only about one ball bearing. You couldn't get 2 ball bearings in that gap, and when you slide them, see they all come back up the other side, so that's full on that side. And if you check on this side, you can do the same thing. Just be gentle. I'm pushing one out there. My screwdriver is slightly magnetic. It's very easy to get them put back in again. See if I can do this without pulling one out. So you can see that rail is full there as well. They disappear into here. They come along here and back out the other side. That's the kind of path, right? So we want to get them out because there's a tube all the way down here and they've probably got grease everywhere. We'll take these ends off, these little hooks off. I'm just going to do it with one to show you. I'll do the rest off camera. So we'll do this one and then we'll reassemble it, give it a bit of lubrication. Probably just going to use the lithium grease for this. I might coat the rails with the silicone lubricant as a protector. That should be fine. But anyway, what you want to do with these, if you're going to take the ball bearings out, they have a habit of flying everywhere. So what I try to do is I use one of these metal trays. Now this is a huge one, so what I'm going to do is just use a little tray. You can see that. So if you lose a ball bearing, it is going to stay in here. If I put it in here, this is stainless steel. You can see it's clamping it already, even through there. But when I want to remove it all, I just pick this up and now there's no magnet impacting any of this. But I can take it apart in here and not fear that my ball bearings are going to go flying all over my desk. Because if you lose too many, you won't have enough spares to fix it. These red end pieces, those are metal plates covered in like a rubbery surface, and they wipe the rails. They keep the shmoo, like dust and things like that, from getting into the bearings. So these need to be adjusted anyway when you put the rails back on. We'll cover that when we get to it. That hole on a lot of rails, on the carriages, usually means you're able to inject lubricant through there, which would make its way in and out up to the bearings. Now, some don't have holes that go right through, like the little wiper sweeper thing. This red part has a hole, but it doesn't actually follow through to the bearing. So if you find you're not getting any grease going through there, if you choose not to take them apart, that'll probably be why, and you'll have to put the grease or oil directly on this side of them. They're not usually on terribly tight. See, they're quite long. Put that in the side tray. These are magnetic as well because they've got steel inside. So there's a hole through there. And we can actually see that there is a hole in here as well. But you can see all the grease lubricant that's on here as well. Now we need to do the other end. I'm keeping it in the tray in the magnetic field, so if anything goes ping, it'll go straight to the bottom rather than across the desk, never to be seen again. Alright, now we need to take these clips off the ends. Usually a very sharp edge of some kind would work to do that. So let's see if I can gently tease this off. Got something in my... oh, it's my camera, edge of my camera lens. Never mind, that's because I've zoomed it right in. So we'll try and just gently hook these out. So it just came out there. There's one. Surprising, the ball bearings are still staying in place. Now, one recommendation based on seeing some other people take these apart is don't mix, don't do them all together, because some of these little clips are slightly different lengths and they could mess you up when you try and reassemble them. Okay, there we go. Got it. Now we got all the bearings coming out. You can see they're all stuck together in here. Now you want to have a check. See, there's more. Try and focus that a little slightly better. So now you can see the chase where they go down is empty. And that one is empty. So all the bearings are out. We've still got a couple holding on there. So that needs to be cleaned. And all the bearings need to be cleaned, as well as everything else in here. Now let's just have a look at these green pieces. So that has a little hole here that looks like it doesn't go right through. So if you look at the other side, it's not there. But theoretically, it comes across and out of these holes where it would pass any lubricant off to the sides where the bearings are. As the bearings run through here and out there and up the block and then back down again. So I don't know if I can see whether the holes are there or not, but I could put a bit of isopropyl alcohol and see if it comes out the other side. Yeah, you can see it coming through the holes. So this one does actually have channels right through, which is great. It means we can oil these without having to take them apart. Right, let's pour some isopropyl alcohol in here. Just need enough to clean them. Now they're all sticking together because of the magnetic field, so we can just take the magnetic field away. Give everything a really good clean. Some parts like these you could blow out with an air duster once you've got them clean, just so that you're not leaving residual isopropyl alcohol in there to dilute any lubricant you might put in. I'm going to get a bit of kitchen roll, something like that. It can work to suck up the isopropyl off the bearings anyway. Now the fun part is getting all the bearings out. I don't want to waste this isopropyl, so I'll just slide them out, let them drop on the magnet, up with the tissue underneath. That's all the bearings out, and just roll them around a bit on the tissue, like they're occasionally deciding to go flying. You can see as I move the magnet around, it's quite fun. Just don't lose any. Now it's time to put them back in again. But first thing you do is reassemble your block, but we need to clean it out as well. Here. Now for this, I could just use air duster just to blow it out, but don't blow it towards your bearings, right? Don't want to lose those. I'm going to move it out of the way. Just give it a little inspect, make sure there's no debris left on it. There isn't, so that's all nice and clean, ready to be reassembled. These have got little pimples on them, one here and one here, so you can't put them on the wrong way. So you turn the pimples down, in, and they will go on like this. And if you look, not quite sure how much I can show you on this, but just under a magnifying glass, this hole is this whole piece is actually in two parts. You can see a seam running along here, and what you've got is a hole through here, and then there's a channel that runs out to this one and out to this side, and then there's another channel here that runs down to here, and another channel here that runs down to here. So when they make this, they have the green is in two pieces, they stake them both together, and now they've got the channels where the grease can get from here through to the bearings. So quite a nifty little bit of engineering in a small package, and that's how you can lubricate them without having to take the bearings out or apart. You could do it on the rails. So you can see the shape of the hook, and you need to pay attention to the shape of this. So this one goes over here, unless I turn it around, of course, and we'll hook in. We'll hook the hook in. I'd imagine after you've done a couple of these it will get easier. Go to the other end and use your little pair of pliers to hook it in. Now you can see the rail is nice and straight. Now we need to do the other side and hook in the other end. And again, nice and straight. Okay. Now you can screw the end caps on. Can't get ball bearings in here now the green bits are on. So you don't need to tighten these up too tight straight away. You just want them in just to help keep the thing together. Just gently snugged. We tighten them up a little bit when we've got them back on the rails, where we can help to seat the brushes, these red parts. As I said, these don't need to be terribly tight right now, just in a bit. So there's that ready for bearings. You just drop them in one at a time. Hardest thing is picking them up, probably. Putting them in the middle is probably easier because the spring will let you get it in. Drop a few in. So, like I said, you don't have to always take them completely apart. If you do, it's a little longer to put them back together, but if you want to start out with the best you can, you know, nicely greased, all the grit cleaned out from manufacturing, then this really is the way to do it. Alright, I'm going to work through the rest of these and I'll be right back. Okay, a few minutes later and they're all in. One gap on each side. That's perfect. So we should be able to slide one of these caps back in here gently. Right, so we can roll it a little bit just to make sure it's all functioning nicely, and that feels great. And because we've got the holes at each end, we could fire some lubricant in. As I said, I want to use lithium grease to get this thing functioning real smooth. But because it is a spray, I'm going to, once I've got it on the main rails, I will put it in the end and squirt some in. And we just want to wipe off the grease from shipping. Once you've got the bulk of it off, what I would suggest is you put your nails into the grooves and just run it down, just to clean those out as well. Get the excess off. Right, now we just want to slide this back on the rail. So same way. Let's put a stopper on the end of the rail so we don't accidentally lose carriage and all the bearings. Now we can run it up and down a few times. And once you've got it on here, what you want to do is just slacken off these screws at the end. So they're free to, the red bits are free to move. Both sides, of course. You can see it's leaving a bit of residue behind because they're not pushed down. Alright, just move it around a little bit. Bring it up to the end and just nip it down. As I said, you don't have to go terribly tight, but there we go. Wipe the excess off. Some has been coming out. And that is nice and loose now. Easy to lubricate in this case because you can just squirt some lubrication or squeeze it in through these holes and it will make its way out to the bearings. Somehow I think if I try to use the lithium grease, it's going to go everywhere. Try it. Just in case. Do the same from the other side. Using a bit of tissue just to stop it spraying everywhere. And we're done. Now I just have to repeat that for 6 more rails, 3 more of this length. Mind you, all the carriages are identical length except for the MGN12. And we're done. Alright, so you see me pull it apart, put it back together. Now you can, like I said, you can do these without taking them apart. So if you were going to do that, you'd probably want to soak the bearings with, this has got isopropyl alcohol in it. Alright, you could run some in there. You could put some in the hole. And this way. And give it a good going, but it's going to be harder to get anything out. You probably want to wipe the rails down first. I guess that would probably help. Alright. Now, using the same technique as I did near the end of before, a bit of rag to catch the overspray. You can actually see it coming out the bottom, so it's definitely getting through. I'll do this side. Right, let's come right out in the bottom. So now that we've done that, you want to move these rails up and down to get it to spread through. Let's wipe some of the residue off. Now, even though you don't take it, even though we haven't taken it off, I would still suggest slackening these screws just a few turns. Do the other side, right, and run it up and down a little bit, because then they'll find and they'll resettle where they need to be, and then just nip them up again, and that's pretty much it. Now, is it running as smooth as the other one? So here's the one that I did as a complete disassembly. And so you can see how freely that one's flowing. This one, not really so much. So it gets it clean, it gets it lubricated, but it's obviously not as good as a complete clean. So I'm probably going to go through all of these, strip them down, clean them one at a time thoroughly. That's all of the long rails done. It's getting late, so I'm going to call it quits for the night. Doing it without videoing took maybe 10 minutes per rail to completely strip it down into a magnetic container, clean it with isopropyl alcohol, reassemble the carriage, put all the bearings back in, carefully put in some lithium grease. What I did was I sprayed some into a container and then just used the edge of a screwdriver to put small amounts in all the way along without pushing the bearings out, and that was sufficient. Now I can add a little bit more in the holes at the end of these rails, of course, if I need to, but right now they're all sliding real smooth and I'm very happy about it, so I'm going to leave it at that. And so we'll call this video done on cleaning these. Like I showed you, if you really don't feel comfortable taking them apart, or you have no spare bearings so you can't afford to lose any, then you can do it just in situ. I mean, at the end of the day, you could sit the rail like that in isopropyl alcohol, let it soak for a while, clean it out, dry it out, and then re-oil it. Then you're not taking it apart either. I chose to take all of these apart, like I said, about 10 minutes per rail. Clean the rails thoroughly, clean the carriages thoroughly, and nice and oiled, and good to go. So next stage is to put them onto the frame and move on towards the heated bed and the floating gantry. Anyway, I'm not going to show you cleaning the rest. I think 1.5, and I've done the rest already off camera, at least these 4 anyway. I've got a few more to do. I won't drop into another video to show you how I do those ones. It's exactly the same. Obviously the MGN 12 has slightly bigger bearings if I lose one. One point to note was, on a couple of these, even though with all the precautions I took, a couple of bearings did go ping out of the area and I couldn't find 2 of them. I also found that a couple of them were a little short on the bearing. Fill them till you got a gap of barely 1 bearing, and that's it. And a couple of them you could easily see that you could fit another bearing in and still have a full bearings width. So I added bearings to those sides that were apparently short. So it was worthwhile taking them apart a little bit. Whether you'd notice in actual running having 1 bearing gap or 2, I don't know, because there will still be a good coverage of bearings on the rail, but I had them, so I put them in. Anyway, I will see you on the next video when we put together the rails and carriages onto the frame.